All Saints' Day. The word all is very important. Today we celebrate not just the canonized saints, but all those who lived holy lives and are now with God in heaven, most of whom have not received any formal recognition from the church. And this is what is referred to in today's first reading as a great multitude, impossible to count, of people from every nation, race, tribe, and language. What distinguishes them is that they opened themselves fully to the Lord's presence and allowed Him to live in them. All of them, in different ways, reflected something of the portrait of the disciple that Jesus paints for us in the Beatitudes, as we have heard in today's Gospel reading. In the Beatitudes, Jesus is giving us a portrait of a saint we are all called to become. I like that phrase. A portrait of a disciple, a portrait of a saint. The Beatitudes. The different Beatitudes could be understood as like the different pieces of colored glass that make up a stained glass window. And in that sense, Jesus is giving us a self-portrait. He is uniquely the person that is portrayed in those Beatitudes. Yet, He was also showing us the kind of person that He calls us all to be. Each individual Beatitude is itself a way of following the Lord. And some ways of following the Lord will come more naturally to us than others. And interestingly, we might find ourselves drawn to some of the Beatitudes more than to the other Beatitudes. And if we give expression in our lives to any of the Beatitudes, it can easily lead us to the living out of all the other Beatitudes. Because one Beatitude always leads to another, and eventually they are all linked into each other. They are all in one piece. They belong together like the pieces of a stained glass window. Jesus declares that the people who live out the attitudes and values expressed in the Beatitudes are truly blessed. They will know the Lord's joy in this life and in eternity. Pipila tingali ato sila karong gibisita. And in the Beatitudes, Jesus is putting before us a whole way of life that is worth striving for. And yet, we won't always give expression to the Beatitudes fully. We will always fall short of this vision that the Lord puts before us. But the Lord expects from us that having asked His forgiveness, we keep journeying on, pressing on towards this goal of being blessed with the help of the Holy Spirit. And the reason for this is that the Lord calls all of us to be saints, even though He knows we are also sinners. St. John, in today's second reading, calls on us to think of the love that the Father has lavished on us by letting us be called children of God. And it goes on, we are already the children of God, already sons and daughters of God. God has already done and continues to do a good work in our lives. Our calling now, brothers and sisters, is to keep opening ourselves up ever more fully to what God is doing in our lives. Hopefully, we see what's the work of God, what is now Where is God in our lives today? And as we try to keep opening ourselves up to the presence of God in our lives, keep in mind that path of the Beatitudes. And at the end of our earthly journey, we will come to that eternal moment when, in the words of the second reading, we shall become like God, because we shall see God as He really is. And then we will finally and fully be the person of the Beatitudes. We will be holy as God is holy, loving as God is loving. And we will join that great multitude, a huge number of people, impossible to count.